Hello everyone, it's GigaBeef here and patch 13.5 has arrived, so today we're going through the most important changes that weren't featured in the patch notes. First and foremost, we have a whole bunch of new ammo, primarily at the lower end of penetration for 7.62x39 and 7.62x54. For 7.62 AKs we have SP with 68 damage and 20 pen, and FMJ with 63 damage and 26 pen. Both are purchasable at level 1 traders, so FMJ effectively replaces the HP cartridge as the early game staple. Then we have PP at Prapple 3 with 55 damage and 41 pen, which is going to make 7.62 AKs really strong in the mid game. For 54R, we have something similar with HP, SP and FMJ being added as the level 1 ammos. Although the other two have really high damage, I think you're probably better off with FMJ due to the near guaranteed class 3 penetration at 33. Oh, and there's also the 1270 Piranha for 12 gauge shotguns. It's kind of like a mini flechette. These ammos are a good addition because LPS has moved up to Prapple 2, which should help to keep the Mosin meta at bay, at least a little bit. The new 9x19 round FMJ M882 with 18 pen effectively replaces PST as the super early game cartridge because PST has been at level 2 traders for 2 wipes now I think, and 882 is at Peacekeeper 1. 300 Blackout has been given CBJ, which is an intermediary between M62 and AP and can be thought of as somewhat equivalent to M855A1. That caliber has sorely needed something like this to help out the MCX. The MP7 caliber 4.6x30 has also received JSP. This has 32 pen, which seems like a nothing addition until you realise that subsonic has been moved from 36 pen to 23. This is a massive nerf to subsonic rounds and practically means that players will only really use FMJ from now on in the MP7. Another subsonic cartridge that has taken the nerf stick is SB193, the second place bullet for the P90 and the 5.7 pistol, having gone from 35 pen to 27. This is again a very significant change as it prevents this cartridge from being effective against class 4 armor. Overall, the changes are seemingly designed to fill the gap at the start of a wipe before you can access really good bullets, especially for those that had rounds moved up higher like the 7.62 cartridges in general. All of this is up to date on the wiki, so you can go and check out the new ammo charts there at your leisure. Next up is looting. I wasn't quite sure how much of an effect that this would have, but it's actually really dramatic. Boxes are all over the place and you often have to search in different areas to ensure that you find everything, but when you do, there's often multiple boxes right next to each other. Loose loot also seems to be quite buffed up. In fact, once you adjust your mindset a bit, there seems to be loot everywhere. Even high level items appear to be spawning much more frequently than in previous wipes. I've never seen so many people saying they found lead X's on the very first day. Stashes are a little bit of a mystery at the moment. Various reports have said that customs and shoreline stashes have all been in the same places and not moving at all, whereas on woods they all seem to have disappeared entirely. Or possibly they are just incredibly hard to find. Specifically on woods they are quite difficult as we know, so maybe we just haven't been able to spot them yet. Either way, it sounds like there is something bugged with stashes and maybe it'll get changed, so let's just see what happens. Also, keep an eye out for the sealed weapons cases, i.e. the ones that used to come in the airdrop event and can only be opened in the stash. These are appearing on the map and Giving Tree on Customs seems to be one of the best places to find them. Just like before, the loot in there is absolutely stacked. Meta ammo, weapons, 60 rounders, well worth taking if you can find one. The new Painkiller effect is interesting. Rather than a sharpness increase, we now have a decrease in saturation, which washes out the colours and makes everything a bit more black and white than normal. I actually don't mind this effect to be honest, and it's vastly improved for anyone that makes content and broadly looks the same outside of the colours themselves while still giving you an indicator that your painkillers are working. It will take a little bit of getting used to, but a good change in my opinion. The one question at the moment is that when you break your leg, for example, using painkillers does still give you your mobility back, but you get the blurred vision whilst under painkillers until you fix the actual problem with a splint. It's not entirely certain whether this is intentional yet, but it is a big difference to how it used to work, and I actually think it's good. You should be punished for not fixing a status effect like a leg break in some way. Right, onto the UI changes. After using it for a day, it feels pretty good. Again, something to get used to as breaking years of muscle memory is going to take some time, but I do wish that the trader shops loaded a little bit quicker. You can use spacebar to buy and sell after selecting items, and between the traders it remembers which tab you are on, so you can switch between, say, all of the trader weapon pages just in one place. I would like there to be hotkeys for the buy and sell tabs too, so you don't have to click on them with your mouse, and perhaps even for the individual traders to let you navigate really quickly, but for now it's a big improvement. Loadout presets are active by default and built into the inventory now. It's a little misleading as it looks like the button button is grayed out, but you have to click the little save icon at the top, which lets you name the loadout that you have active currently as the new preset. There's a bunch of kits that they have built as standard, but most of these are not useful at the start because you can't buy the items that you need without the flea, but you can start setting up basic kits yourself by navigating to custom once you've saved one down manually. As we get into the mid game, this is going to save massive amounts of time. One thing that is catching everybody out is the double click to consume. While this is great for meds and food in raid, I have eaten so many items already in my stash because I tend to double click on things to open the inspect window just as a force of habit while I'm navigating around. If this starts to really annoy you, you can actually turn it off in the settings. I'm keeping mine on and just getting used to it because I think it will be better in the long run, but this won't be the last time that I nearly stick myself with the 1000 plus damage increase of double stim accidentally in raid. In the hideout, we now know that the weapon stand will require Illumination 3 and Mechanic 2 to build it, so it's at least level 20 to get this installed. There's a few new items that we've seen so far. The most important one is Ragman 1's new armor vest. At class 3, the Kora Kulon gives a paid option outside of the old 6B5 rig, and although it is really heavy, it's extremely valuable at the start of a wipe, protecting against much more than a packer. This is especially true with the changes to low-end cartridges that we just talked about. There's two new rigs here as well, the M4 reduced with 6 slots and the Type 56 Chicom with 10 slots, so they're both cheap and affordable alternatives to the bank robber rig depending on how much space you want to have. A few more to look out for are the Interceptor OTV at class 4 and two new class 3 rigs, the Wartech TV115 with the Bear badge on it and the Eagle Allied Industries with the USEC badge. I suspect these are Rogue and Raider rigs because I found the Eagle Allied MVSS on a player who'd been farming Lighthouse Rogues, but that's not completely confirmed yet. As the wipe continues, we'll be sure to find more and more of the new attachments, and I've spotted some new optics and reflexes, but nothing mind-blowing so far. In terms of progression and questing, it is very hard to get to level 2 just in the hideout because almost everything is identified now. I managed to ID a shroud mask on fence to just tip me over after I failed to get to level 2 on my first raid, so it can give you a little boost, but I don't think it's practical to spend a bunch of time waiting for unidentified items to get there using the old method. That said, not much else seems to have changed so far on the early tasks. BSG did put a list of quests that had balancing changes in the patch notes, so we're waiting for people to get to those to see what they actually are. And the first one is Shooter Born in Heaven, which now has the requirement of 5 kills per map on every map, including factory, but doesn't have a range requirement, and it needs to be done with the bolt action. This is probably overall good, and it's way easier to do without having to pick very specific spots for some maps where it was a big struggle to do naturally. Finally, let's look at a few of the issues right now. We've had the Streets expansion, and the map makers are in the process of documenting the new extracts, but so far performance has been really atrocious. Many players are reporting big decreases in FPS, even those with monster PCs, so if you're struggling to run it, even though it was fine before, you're not alone. I have had multiple players report to me that they simply couldn't do some of the barters with the traders, for example keys, as it just wasn't working, and there were some other issues with quest hand-ins for things like gas analyzers, where if you got 2 of them in the same raid, the game wasn't accepting both for hand-in. Outside of this though, the wipe so far has gone pretty smoothly, to be honest. Although there are always some glitches and disconnects, my own raids have mostly been trouble-free, playing primarily Woods and Reserve PMC. So let's keep looking out for these new changes, and best of luck on the grind. As usual, a big shout out to all my patrons, and have fun in your raids.